And we are back with Power Up with Pride 2023. Thank you all so much for joining us. Up next, we've got one of my favorite games of all time. I love this game to death. It is such a wonderful game. I hope you will all enjoy this run as much as I'm going to enjoy it. We have jenkar running Transistor low percent. jenkar, take it away.
Yep. Hi, everybody. We're going to be doing Transistor low percent. Transistor is this absolutely gorgeous game where you are Red, this wonderful lady with this big sword, and we're going to be lugging it around and smashing enemies. Timer starts when we pull the sword out. So 3, 2, 1, go. And so this is low percent. This game has a lot of fights, like the one we're about to walk in now. And the fights give you experience, and experience is percent in this game. So we try to get as little experience as possible, which means we're going to be skipping a lot of fights. Here we did a small skip where we skipped the barrier. It spawned behind us, and so we didn't have to break it. Save a few seconds. And now we have a little tutorial introducing us to one of the main mechanics of the game called Turn. Turn allows you to pause time, plan actions, and then unpause time and execute those actions. Unfortunately, while it's very powerful, it's also very slow, so we try to avoid using it when possible. But it is powerful for combat and powerful for skips, so we'll be seeing a lot of turn throughout the run. And we're going to be treated to one of the many beautiful background drops. So we can see the city of Cloudbank, and we're going to come up on the first major skip, which I'll let Cass explain while I do.
Yeah, so what Jenk is going to try and do here is leave one of these enemies alive so that we can kill it in a very specific position. We want to be in a spot where the game isn't expecting us to be. By doing that, the game is going to snap us to somewhere it expects us to be, so somewhere it's sort of programmed for us to be. If we go into turn, which jenkar just described before that happens, we've got a little bit of bad luck here. There we go, much better. By going into turn right before the game snaps us, Red's collision gets turned off. It snaps us to where we're supposed to be, then it turns collision back on. However, because collision was turned off while we were in turn and turned back on while we were out of turn, we actually store the no-clip state. So every single time jenkar enters into the turn function, she's going to be able to walk through walls. This, believe it or not, is not an intended way to view this game. But right now we're skipping over a number of fights, making our way to the next ability that we're going to pick up, which is the primary ability of the run, probably the most important ability. It's called Jaunt. Or Dash. We will probably call it Jaunt and Dash interchangeably. We've got a little puzzle here that we have to do the intended way just to help you get used to the way turn works in terms of how quick it activates things in real time. Jenkar's going to grab the ability and immediately start walking away. This allows us to move during a cutscene that we would normally be locked in place for. So that is jenkar picking up Dash right there. By entering turn, we can then, again, walk out of walls. So this will persist until we change level. But don't worry, it may be gone at the end of this level, but it will not be gone for good, as we can get it back in the not too distant future. And we're also going to see jenkar return to quote-unquote normal state whilst in a wall, which will cause the game to shove Red back in bounds. And it just gives us a little bit of a movement speed increase. Having the game shove us back in bounds is a little bit faster than running back in bounds ourselves. So we're about to see that coming up just here. Right there. So now we're back in bounds, and we have skipped probably the first 7 minutes of the game in about 3 minutes, which is great.
It's actually faster than 80%, but it skips so much experience that you get to have very little equipment for upcoming fights that we do not skip, which is what makes this a little bit slower for 80% overall. Here we have a very nifty trick. During this cutscene, you can actually hold spacebar to accelerate the bike. And if you do that, you move towards the right of the screen. And if you are on the right of the screen, when the cutscene ends, Red is off screen faster, and the cutscene ends about 0.5 faster. So very small optimization, but very easy to do. And we have a bit of lore about the main antagonist, the Camerata, which we're going to find throughout the game, and the process, which is turning the walled city into those blocky white shapes.
And coming up here, we've got the first of our sort of more standard fight skips, I suppose you would say. We are going to see jenkar dashing, standing in very specific spots and dashing to very specific spots. It might not look like much, but basically what we're doing is we're jumping around the outsides of a fight boundary. When you enter a fight, some boundaries get drawn, and you cannot leave those boundaries until you finish the fight in a standard arena style, which was done perfectly just there. And then we're going to go into another type of fight skip. Are you starting to see a theme yet? This one is a lot more complicated. Basically, jenkar is going to click on a door to queue up using it and transitioning to another area. They're then going to enter turn, which pauses red's actions, dash into the range of the door, then dash into a fight. This will activate the transition while putting red into a fight state. This will confuse the game into spawning that fight's boundaries, into stopping from spawning that fight's boundaries again, because it's already spawned the boundaries once, it can't spawn again, which makes things a little bit difficult. What we're going to see is then we're going to open up a terminal. Normally, we would not be able to move while terminals are in place, but by going through this terminal, we're going to be able to jump. Let me just slow down a little bit here, just so jenkar's finding the door. There it is. So that whole movement has to be done without being able to see, which is incredibly difficult. And then coming up, we're going to go through a door, exit the terminal, and enter turn immediately. This is going to store our no-clip state once again, so we can once again go through walls. There's a very minor time save on this particular one, but does skip some fights, which obviously we're trying to get as little experience as possible, as we said earlier. And that was great. Well done.
Thank you.
Now we're at Sybil skip. Again, another type of fight skip. By dashing in very specific directions, so we're using the cardinal directions here of up and left, then down and left, straight down, so on and so forth. By dashing certain directions a certain number of times, which we have mapped out and memorized, we actually dash around the outside of a map as opposed to going through it the intended way. This skips 2 to 3 fights. I actually can't remember how many's there because I haven't done it the intended way in a very long time. And is going to put us at the trigger for the next cutscene. Normally, a cutscene trigger would not be interactable unless it is on camera. And as you can see here, we cannot see where red has gone because the camera is not programmed to follow red that way. The camera still gets locked to the inbound state while red's character model is outside of the boundary. So again, we have to do this without being able to see anything. And we see that dialogue pop up there. That's a really, really good sign. And nailed it. So right now, red is standing at a microphone, humming into it, and we're about to have the next cutscene trigger. When this cutscene ends, the camera will reset its position to where red is, and we'll be ready to start the Sybil fight.
Yeah, that skip is always a bit terrifying when you have commentary around because can't count. You have to pay very close attention to your counting.
Here we get a nice little vignette, a nice little flashback to what was happening right before the game began. In the world of Cloudbank, Red is a very accomplished singer and architect. She was performing at a venue called the Empty Set, where she was ambushed by the Camerata, who we see here. That's Grant. We see Sybil here. We have Asher at the background. We have Royce in the background, and then Asher. To summarize it as briefly as possible, they were looking to absorb Red's essence and power the transistor to help control the process. But they were given bad information. Red was not alone in the alleyway in which she was ambushed, and our friend here has taken the fatal blow for us. Red did not escape unscathed. She has unfortunately lost her voice, but our dear friend here lost a little bit more than that. The transistor is a very unique weapon where it actually absorbs the essence